The biblical narrative of Cain and Abel, often interpreted as a straightforward account of fraternal conflict, offers a much deeper allegorical significance when viewed through a symbolic lens. Instead of seeing Cain and Abel as literal historical figures, they can be understood as representations of religious denominations. Kin spiritual movements locked in perpetual conflict over doctrine, dogma, and the correct interpretation of their shared faith. This interpretation aligns with the broader biblical theme of names and figures serving as symbols of larger spiritual truths or communities, a concept reinforced by the narrative of Jacob and Esau in Genesis 25:22-23, where the two brothers are explicitly described as representing two nations and two manner of people. The Bible frequently uses names and personal stories as symbolic representations of broader spiritual or communal realities. In the case of Jacob and Esau, the struggle within Rebekah's womb is not merely about two brothers, but symbolizes the future conflicts between the nations they represent, Israel and Edom. This pattern of symbolic naming and storytelling invites us to reconsider other seemingly straightforward narratives, such as that of Cain and Abel, through a similar lens. In Genesis, Cain and Abel are introduced as the sons of Adam and Eve. However, their story takes on a deeper meaning when we consider that biblical names often reflect the character or destiny of a group rather than just an individual. Cain and Abel can be seen as representing two distinct religious movements or denominations. The tension between them reflects the historical and repeating struggle within the religious world, where differing interpretations of faith lead to conflict, persecution, and in some cases death. Cain and Abel's story can be understood as an allegory for the enduring conflict between kin religious denominations. These spiritual kin, sharing a common ancestry or foundation, nevertheless find themselves in opposition due to differences in doctrine, understanding, or dogma. Cain, who offers a sacrifice from the fruits of the ground, symbolizes a religious denomination that prioritizes human effort, works, or a more material approach to worship. Abel, who offers a lamb from his flock, represents a denomination that emphasizes faith, sacrifice, and spiritual purity. The conflict between Cain and Abel is not merely a personal dispute, but symbolizes the broader struggle between religious communities that hold different theological views. Throughout history, these conflicts have often resulted in one group persecuting or even destroying the other. The story of Cain and Abel thus prefigures the ongoing spiritual battles between religious movements, battles that continue to shape the landscape of religion to this day. The symbolic reading of Cain and Abel's story offers a powerful lens through which to view the history of religious conflict. Just as Cain, in his jealousy and anger, kills Abel, so too have various religious denominations throughout history sought to suppress or eliminate those they see as heretical or divergent from the true path. The story serves as a microcosm of the broader pattern of persecution and martyrdom that has characterized much of religious history. One of the most striking parallels to this symbolic interpretation is the conflict between Arianism and Catholicism during the early centuries of Christianity. Arianism, which denied the full divinity of Christ, was eventually deemed heretical by the Catholic Church, leading to its suppression. The conflict was not just theological, but involved political and social power struggles, much like the symbolic struggle between Cain and Abel. Similarly, the Reformation period saw Protestantism and Catholicism locked in a deadly struggle, with both sides claiming to be the true faith, yet often resorting to violence and persecution to assert their dominance. By interpreting Cain and Abel as symbolic of religious denominations rather than literal brothers, we gain a deeper understanding of the narrative's significance. The story becomes not just a cautionary tale about fraternal violence, but a profound reflection on the nature of religious conflict. It highlights the tragic consequences of allowing doctrinal differences to escalate into persecution and violence, a pattern that has repeated itself throughout history and continues to do so in various forms today. This allegorical interpretation also invites us to reconsider other biblical narratives that have traditionally been understood literally. If Cain and Abel are symbols of religious denominations, then other biblical figures and events may similarly represent larger spiritual or communal realities. This perspective challenges us to look beyond the surface of the text and seek out the deeper, often more complex meanings embedded within the biblical stories. The story of Cain and Abel, when viewed through an allegorical lens, offers a powerful insight into the nature of religious conflict. Rather than a simple tale of fraternal jealousy and murder, it becomes a symbolic representation of the perpetual struggle between kin religious denominations, movements that share a common foundation yet diverge in their understanding and practice of faith. This struggle, often marked by persecution and violence, reflects the broader pattern of religious history, where differences in doctrine and dogma have led to conflict and division.